Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Tuesday morning, October the 4th. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio podcast from blogtalkradio.com. And the chat room is open. I did pop the link in there, what we're still looking at, which is Robert Burney's web pages from Joy to Me and You. And Robert Burney is he's a codependence therapist. He's a grief counselor. He's an author. He's written a book called Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls, and he's a spiritual teacher, and he's got some great stuff on his website, www.joy2meyandYou. That's www.joy, J-O-Y, the number 2, MEU.com. And we've been on that website for quite a while, over 3 months, and I just found it very helpful. He has a lot of stuff on there about codependence and relationship stuff and inner child healing work and whatnot. And that's really why we're still on this. I was looking at the whole inner child healing process that he has there. So hopefully everybody's getting something out of this. And it's been a while since I sort of took a week off there and just needed a break. And this is almost 2 years I've been doing Blog Talk Radio, and I started November 2009. And so we're coming on up to 2 years here. And so I just really was getting tired and I had to take a break. And so, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And, I thank everybody for taking the time to listen to my shows. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of work. There's so many shows here on Blog Talk Radio that I want to listen to that I just don't have time. You have to kind of squeeze them in because I know how it is. Like, everybody's busy. And so, I appreciate everybody who's tuning in and listening to my stuff. That's awesome. I'm just talking about abuse, and abuse is a sensitive subject, so you have to listen at your own discretion to all of my shows. I put a discretionary warning on my shows because I'm talking about abuse, and it can trigger people. And, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, you have to do the right thing and turn it off. So everyone has to listen at their own discretion. And young people under the age of 18, I just ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. Have like an adult listen to the show with you, a parent, caregiver, someone who can listen with you, and then they can hopefully have somebody in your life that cares about what you're doing online that will listen to the show with you, and they can help you make a decision if it's age appropriate for you, because I have no idea how young the people are who are listening to my shows. So if you're under the age of 18, have permission to listen to my show from an adult, a caregiver, somebody who's older who can help you make that decision, right? So we'll get right into this. The chat room is open there, and I did pop the link in there, what we're looking at. My good friend Gypsy, which is there. Good morning, or actually good night. And we're looking at inner child healing, a path to freedom, serenity, and empowerment. We finished up the processing part of the second page of that processing work for the inner child healing work. And so I want to just pick up here. And inner child healing, a path to freedom, serenity, and empowerment. And so I haven't read any of this ahead, so I'm just reading this as we go. And it's good stuff because it helps me work with my inner children and to work through some of the process. I'm also working with John Bradshaw's books, Homecoming, Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child, and also the Healing the Shame That Binds You book from John Bradshaw. So between these two, Robert Burney and John Bradshaw, I'm kind of doing quite a bit of inner child healing work, but I took last week off. I was just needed a break, and so it was good to take a break. So we'll just get right into this morning. Robert Burney says, it is through healing our inner child, our inner children, by grieving the wounds that we suffered, that we can change our behavior patterns and clear our emotional process. And we can release the grief with its pent-up rage, shame, terror, and pain from those feelings, places which exist within us. And he says, because of our broken hearts, our emotional wounds, our scrambled minds, our subconscious programming, what the disease of codependence causes us to do is abandon ourselves. It causes the abandonment of self, the abandonment of our own inner children, or inner child. And that inner child is the gateway to our channel to the higher self. And he says, the one who betrayed us and abandoned and abused us the most was ourselves. He says, that is how the emotional defense system that is codependence works. The battle cry of codependence is, I'll show you, I'll get me. And he says, we need to rescue and nurture and love our inner children and stop them from controlling our lives, stop them from driving the bus. And children are not supposed to drive. They're not supposed to be in control. And these are excerpts from his book. He says, and they are not supposed to be abused and abandoned. We have been doing it backwards. We abandoned and abused our inner children, locked them in a dark place within us, and at the same time let the children drive the bus. And that's the children's wounds. Let the children's wounds dictate our lives. So he says it is necessary to own and honor the child, who we were, in order to love the person we are. And the only way to do that is to own that child's experiences, honor that child's feelings, and release the emotional grief energy that we're still carrying around. So that's from his book, from Codependence, The Dance of Wounded Souls, from Robert Burney. And yeah, it's good stuff. It's so true. Like, I know that when I like about at least, I don't know, I was saying 6 months, but now it's more like getting closer to a year. I noticed, like, that I had inner children, because I was doing some work on inner child work, looking at Hope for Us, web pages from Hope for Us, and Hope for Survivors, and that's information about inner child healing work. And I was looking at that, and other places too, was seeing some stuff on inner child healing. And I realized and recognized that within myself I did have at least one inner child, because I had seen her a long, long time ago as the wounded child that I was, growing up in this home, And I knew I was going to have to get in touch with her, because I knew I had a lot of rage, and I had a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of grief, and a lot of just a lot of bad feelings from my childhood. And it was just recognizing this one little inner child within me that was carrying all this. And then once I really started looking into it, I saw that there was more than one. And these were all the places that I was like wounded and sort of stuck as a child. That's where the trauma was just too significant, and that's where it was just too hard. And so, children just can't grasp a lot of times what's happening to them. And it doesn't make sense, and then trauma, is hard on the body, it's hard on the mind, hard on the brain. And it, it left a little imprint, in my memory banks of where I was wounded. And that little person, because I never got any help and I never really worked through it, that part of me got stuck at these different places, right? So that's what I'm doing, is working through to try to get back, first of all, back in touch with these little inner children, and to work through the process of providing a safe place, in my mind, a safe place for these little inner children, so that there's some containment, so that they feel, okay, we're safe. And actually, it has worked. I've been doing this now for months, and this is with some help, with a lot of help from Gypsy Witch and these books that I've been looking at, and it's been very helpful, absolutely helpful. I don't feel the same, the same intensity of the emotions that I was going through, which was a whole lot of anger and a whole lot of rage and a whole lot of just feeling so down, like, who knows what that exactly is, just the whole betrayal, the whole deception, of growing up abused, and then all the way through till I was about 17, really. And then I could have moved out, and then my mom was like, kind of like, oh no, she changed her attitude, she changed her tune after she abused me my whole life, then she started handing me $20 bills and was like, oh no, don't leave, if you leave, I'll die, putting this guilt trip on me that if I left and I moved out and got my own life, that she would die, which I kind of thought was true, because my dad and her didn't get along, they were still fighting, and still a lot of abuse between them, and a lot of rage and a lot of hatred, and I thought, she very well could die if I leave. So I kind of thought that by staying in the home, that I was, helping out, and that our relationship kind of developed, because it really never had developed in a positive way. And so, it was the whole betrayal thing, this whole deception thing that, that I put in the back of my mind that, oh, it's okay what my parents did. Really, honestly, like by the age of 20, I mean, I had put my abuse behind me. I was like, yeah, so they abused me, it was just, they abused all of us. It's not like it was just me. And I sort of put it behind me as if to say, well, that's okay, because now is making up for it, because now, mom needs me, right? And mom wants me to be around. Really, it was just to keep my dad away from her. That's why why she didn't want me to leave. And I knew that. So all of a sudden I had a position that I could, that I felt was pretty worthy, that I could actually gain some of her love and some of her care and some of her trust and some of her, which I never had. And so it was a serious sense of loss when I hit the age of like 28, 29, and she actually dropped the bomb again after so many years that she never did care. She never did love her children. She didn't want her children. She was just miserable, and people I've told, some of my family know about this, right? The ones that are living. And I told them, I said, like, look what she did. Like, I mean, my God. And they were just like, yeah, but she was so sick, and she didn't know what she was saying, but she did know what she was saying, and she knew she was tearing me up. And we had a conversation, and I wrote about it in Life of Death, the Redemption. And like I told her, I said, how could you say these things? You know, you had a chance to let us go when the social workers got involved. You know, and you sit there and say that you begged the courts to keep your children because you loved us and we were all you had and all this. You know, and so the courts let us stay in the home. And then I said, and then you turn around and you tell me that all of this abuse was for nothing? You know, that me sticking around here to keep Dad away from you for the, you know, till I'm almost 30 years old meant nothing to you? I mean nothing to you? That really cut me to the core. And so at the age of 29, I ran away. And moved 2,000 miles away. Really, it was just my way of running away. It was just like, I'm leaving. And, you know, I'm glad that I did. I needed to get out. I needed to get my own life. And I really needed to get on my healing journey, which didn't start for another 11 years later. And so, excuse me, so it's pretty crazy, like, what this stuff does, you know. But, you know, that's, if we don't get in touch with those inner children, you know, we're just going to carry that stuff around forever. And I knew that. And so when I first started doing the inner child healing work, I was just like, man, I don't even know, you know, if I need to do this or if it's something that, you know, that would help or not. But if it's worth a try. And so I've been working through the inner child healing process, and it really is helping me out a lot because I don't have the same level of emotional distress, you know what I mean, from the grief and from the anger and the rage. Because I've done a lot of writing. I think journaling has been very helpful for me. Writing, you know, mainly just writing my books, which were originally, one of them was a blog. And I started writing this public-facing blog because it wasn't about the money. I needed to get my story out, and I needed to tell somebody what happened to me as a child. And that was my inner child screaming out, going, somebody has to know about this. Somebody in the world has to at least know the truth, you know. And that was the purpose for it, you know what I mean. And then Donna Shear saw it, and Donna Shear, she's a best-selling author. She saw it, and she was like, "You need to publish that, so other people will hopefully get, you know, help them and help them to realize, you know, to reach out and get some help, and, you know, just not be stranded in their own pain and suffering on their own. It's really, really sad." And so this is where this all sort of came about, looking at the inner child healing work. And it's been helpful, like I said, very much helpful. I still have some work to do, and I still have quite a bit of work to do. But it has to be done in manageable pieces because, you know, I have a life too, right? And I think it's better for me that way. I just spend so much time on it, and then I take a break, you know, because that way I can still stay in the present. I can still stay and function in the present reality that is today, you know, and get the things done that I need to do today, which is, you know, laundry and work and whatever. And, you know, my sweetheart, and take care of things and cook dinner and enjoy some of those moments too, right? Find some joy in the day, find some good stuff. And also then just do a little bit of work. So, you know, sometimes I'll skip a day or two or whatever, especially if I feel like, you know, I'm just getting tired or whatever. But, you know, I just work on it when I can, and I don't put pressure on myself to like, oh, I have to do this now, because I realize this is like a lifelong journey here, you know, for me. I don't know about anybody else, but I know this is going to take me a long time. And so, you know, it's good though, because it's like Robert Burney says, otherwise we're just letting these wounded inner children dictate our lives based on, you know, like most of my decisions in the past were all based on my inner child's issues of not wanting to get hurt. So relationship stuff, you know, like as an adult, like I know not everybody's out to get me, and you know, I have the full capability of looking after myself. You know, my inner children sit there and say, "Oh, don't let anybody get too close," you know. They could turn out to hurt us. You know what I mean? That's my little inner children are like, what if they're, you know, because my little inner children don't trust anybody. So it's no wonder. And so, you know, for me, I mean, I'm like, well, no, let's enter into a relationship here and have some friends, you know what I mean, and have some working relationships or whatever they may be. And if you let if I let my little inner wounded children drive the bus, then I'm going to be keeping everybody at bay, and you know, it's like, okay, no, can't get too close. And sometimes, I mean, I've done things in the past, like quit jobs and different things, just based on my inner children. So that's why Robert Burney was saying we can't let them drive the bus, because children aren't supposed to be driving the bus, right? We're the adults. We're supposed to be driving that bus. And but we need to get, like most of the stuff that I've seen out here for the inner child healing work, so we got to get in touch with these little inner children, whoever they may be, excuse me, and however many there are, I thought I just had one, but now I recognize at least three or four. So actually four. But I don't see any more. There may be more, but I can see one, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, a toddler, and a teenager. And a 13-year-old. So there's 5. But those are all the points where I was wounded, and that's where I sort of, I have real cognitive memories of all this stuff, right? So I know and understand what happened to me. And the issue is I can see myself at that age because the memories are so clear and so cognitive. I remember what it was like to be there. You know what I mean? I don't have any problem with denial or anything like that. And the issue is I just need to get back in touch with them to do all that work, to reparent, because nobody can do that for me. Like, I can't go back and change it, Nobody can go back and change their past. That's unfortunate, but it's what happened is what happened, and I have to accept that. And so, what I need to learn how to do is become my own best parent, my own best nurturer, my own best everything. I need to go back in and secure the situation and say, look, no one's going to hurt you ever again. And I'm going to deal with things here as an adult. And you're, and learn, and sort of that self-nurturing, self-soothing, to soothe these little inner children and stuff. That's very important. And I've been doing a lot of that over the last 3 months, just going in and in my mind, just visioning myself, comforting myself at these points where I was wounded, right? But you got to be careful when you're doing this work. I'm telling you, you really do. Like John Bradshaw doesn't even suggest that people do the inner child healing work on their own. He suggests it be a group support or with the help of your own counselor or therapist. You might want to work through some of that if you have a counselor or therapist. I do this self-help, but I'm not really doing it self-help because I've got a good friend who's supporting me through this who works with survivors. So it's like I'm really on my own. And so, it's good to have somebody, there to help you with this stuff. I wouldn't suggest doing it on your own. It's because it takes you back to some pretty painful stuff. If you're abused, you're abused, and it's not good. It's not pretty. It's not okay. And so you have to be sure that you're going to be okay by looking back at this stuff, right? Because so many times, we'll put this stuff so far away and cover it up really good so we don't have to see it, And then when we as survivors of abuse, start looking back at what happened, and it can get pretty scary and pretty ugly because the emotions are still there. These little connectors, And John Bradshaw talks a lot about that. There's the points where we were wounded. There's ways you can kind of go back and set anchors. These anchors are like things that you can do, which is just touching your fingers together. But you have to set a positive anchor in there. So I'm really enjoying John Bradshaw's books, Homecoming, Reclaiming and Healing Your Inner Child, as well as Healing the Shame That Binds You. And I wanted those books for a long time. I finally got them, which is just great because I didn't have the money for them, and I got them on a gift card that I got from this place I was working at before, and it was great to get a hold of them because I knew there was some good stuff in there, and there really is. Like, there's anchors that we can anchor certain places where we were wounded, but in order to do that, you have to go back to that place. And so that's where some people say, you just have to be really, really careful because you want to make sure that you're not going to fall backwards in your healing and go backwards and or hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, or spiral downward. Nobody wants to do that. Like, I'm in a pretty good place in my healing journey. I'm 4.5 years into it. So, next April I would say would be 5 years, right? So I'm not just one day into my healing journey. I mean, I've been on this for a long time. And I've had plenty of time to think about it. It's not like, I don't have children. I'm not, my time is my time. My spare time and my free time when I'm not working is my time. And even though I do have a life outside of all this, I still have a lot more time to think about things than people who may have a big family and stuff like that, a lot of responsibilities. So it didn't happen overnight, though, even though I do have a lot of time to think about all this stuff and did a whole lot of writing and journaling and really thinking about this stuff. It's still taken me this long to get where I am today. And there were some pretty painful moments in there. There was, some pretty painful periods of time where, it was pretty harsh. But I'm so used to doing things on my own. I'm so used to not having someone there to hold me or to hug me or tell me that it's going to be okay. You know what I mean? But I do have some good friends, and Gypsy, which is one of those good friends, who's really there with me and for me every day, even though she lives, thousands of miles away. And my sweetheart's here for me, but he's terminally ill. So then what can he do? I can't really just lay all this on him. He's got enough to worry about. And so I'm just used to it. I'm kind of one of these people that is used to having to deal with things on my own and get through the day. It's like, okay, well, I know there's no hug coming, and I know there's nobody going to hold me through this, and I know that nobody's going to say it's okay, and it's going to be okay, and there's no, except for my friend, like I said, Gypsy Witch, and a few other of my good friends who quite often listen to this show. There's Chris and a whole lot of other people. I mean, I could just spend the whole show naming people, but I do have some great friends, but no local support. So that's what I'm saying. So you have to be very careful. If you're used to having people around that can kind of, hold your hand through things and whatnot, that you don't want to do this stuff on your own, because you have to be sure that you can get through the day and you can pull yourself out of it, because, it's pretty deep when you're looking into this stuff and you're looking back at these original points of wounding, you know what I mean? Like, what was the original, where did it happen, you know what I mean? Who was there, right? When you start looking at that stuff, it gets pretty painful. And so, because that little inner child has never got to grieve that stuff, or never really got to be mad, angry, or express those things, because they got shut off. You know what I mean? In order to cope with the next day. That's what I was talking about on one of my last shows. Just to cope with the next day, because I was school age for a lot of that abuse, and just to be able to get up and go to school the next day, with knowing that it was going to be another day, just like the day that I just had, because my parents had no, it's not like they were just, everything was great for the first 7 years of my life, and then all of a sudden they became abusive, or everything was great for the first 12 years of my life, and they became abusive. My parents were abusing my older siblings, 10 years before I was even born. Right? So, the abuse was just continuing on, right? And I just came into the middle of this big honking mess, and it was just abuse from day one, right? So that's how I grew up. And so I didn't grow up seeing any loving stuff. Like, there's nobody hugging anybody or holding anybody, telling them they loved them. There was nobody said that in my family at all. And there wasn't any hugs. There was a lot of slaps and a lot of punches and a lot of pushes, but there wasn't any hugs. And so, I didn't grow up with that. So I grew up from zero to, whatever, to now, you know what I mean, with no family support whatsoever, and just an abusive, horrible mess. And, two parents who couldn't cope, right? It's very unfortunate, but they did what they did, and you can't take it back, you know what I mean? They can't take it back. Even if they wanted to, I seriously doubt that they would, because that's the type of people that they are, but they just don't take responsibility for anything, and they think what they did was just fine, But that's just that's the issue. These little parts of myself that were wounded, there was nobody there at the time at all to comfort me or to offer any kind of help or hope, And so I had to just keep going, and I realized that, hey, tomorrow's just going to be another day like today. So I'm going to have to learn how to deal with it, So I just kind of had to shut down, basically. I really couldn't be this joyful kid. I couldn't be this kid who was just happy and happy-go-lucky and doing my thing, even though I kind of appeared to be that way, but I was really just high on drugs by the time I was 12 years old. And so I was, I was quite often high, and it looked like I was having a good time, but actually I really wasn't. So, I could laugh and joke with the best of them, right? I have a good sense of humor. But when it comes down to it, I was really crying inside, not laughing, And, all the way through school, elementary, junior high, high school, all the way through. And so, I just carried this in my adulthood and didn't go back and get in touch with those feelings, didn't go back and get in touch with that stuff, and I hit 30 years old and I was on my own and away from my abusive family. I thought I left my baggage behind, I thought I left all that stuff behind when I moved, which is something that a lot of survivors think, hey, well, if I move and I leave this abusive place and these abusive people, maybe I can, I can just move on, right? Without realizing that actually I didn't even know the damage done. I had no clue the damage done because I lived my whole life like that. So it didn't seem or appear to be anything other than exactly what it was supposed to be. You know what I mean? And so I thought life was just this horrible existence, and it was just bad. It was horrible. Even though I had some good experiences in my life, I did some traveling, and I had some good friends. I would never negate that stuff. I always had some great friends, and I love my friends. You know what I mean? People mean everything to me. The good people in my life, like, I'll never forget them. So it's not like it was just, that it was completely 100%, horrible. It's just that for the most part, my ability to enjoy life was pretty, you know, pretty low on the scale, you know, of like 1 to 10, you know, because I was just mourning and grieving all the time, mourning the loss of my family, the loss of this childhood that I should have had, the loss of my mother's love, which mainly is really what affected me. This no bond, you know, no bond with my mother, and just knowing how she felt about me, and you know, just grieving and mourning all that all the time. Plus mourning my brother's deaths. You know, 3 of my brothers are dead, and one was murdered, and the other one killed himself, and the other one died of a drug overdose, which was really just a slow suicide. He knew what he was doing, and you know, just mourning them and mourning the loss of this whole entire thing. You know, so I was kind of, you know, really, yeah, down. You know what I mean? And so I was quite often sitting around thinking, what is this life worth it? Like, what is it worth it to wake up, you know, for another day? You know, and my parents were suicidal. They set this up for us a long time ago. My mother used to say stuff like that. You know, I'd be like, well, Mommy, I love you. And she'd be like, it doesn't matter to me. Your love just doesn't matter to me. I don't love you. I don't love this life. I don't love anything. See, I just picked that up from my parents, right? I was just trained. I was just trained how to be a miserable person, you know, who hated life, who hated myself, who hated this very existence, you know. And I mean, I could find fun in things and still have a good time with people, sure. But when it came to my life, my own personal life, in my world, that's where the change happened. And that's where I was kind of living, like I said, kind of a double life, you know. And it was the deception. It's kind of like, you know, my parents who created this hell for us, and then my mother, you know, for a few years tried to make it look like it was okay, you know what I mean? And then dropped the bomb again. And I was just like, oh my God, you're going to mess with my mind like that again? Oh my God. You know, like, I mean, I thought like things were going, you know, I thought I could gain some love here and gain some care, you know, and some love, and it turns out it meant absolutely nothing. And it just blew my mind. I couldn't believe how somebody could be so hateful and so hateful to their children. My mother proved it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's horrible. Like, nobody's, and people say, really? Do mothers really do stuff like that? I've had people tell me, there's no way a mother would treat their child like that. It's like, well, you're not living in the real world, man. You know? There's all kinds of mothers out there who treat their children worse than that, and just as bad as that. And people like to think that it's always only just men that abuse, you know. I mean, my mother was my worst abuser. My dad actually kind of stayed to his own and didn't get in, you know, he was just emotionally absent. He was just an absent. He was there, you know, and when he was hurting my brothers, he was hurting my mother, he was, you know, sometimes hurting me. But mainly he was just kind of not there. You know what I mean? His mind was a million miles away, and he hated that whole existence with his wife and his children. But, you know, it was that stuff that I got from my mother that just killed me. You know, I was just like, oh my God, you know, like that's who you count on, you know, especially as a girl, you know, the girls growing up in the home, they need their mother too, not just their father. They need both parents. If there's 2 parents present, then they need both, you know. And I didn't have either, you know, and then I was expected to just be okay with it. And the reason why I'm expected to be okay with it is because 2 of my siblings are in denial and they're okay with it. You know, 2 of my siblings are like, you know, I told my sister one time, I was like, you know, the dad raped Mom, you know. And she was just like, well, so? And I'm like, no, that's the appropriate response. That's not. I said, you know that our brother sexually abused me. She was just like, so? She didn't say anything, actually. She's just in so much denial. She's got a wall built up and she can't hear nothing, you know what I mean? Because then she'd have to deal with it, and she doesn't want to deal with it. I don't think she's strong enough to deal with it, to be honest with you. But we'll have to pick this up again on Thursday. I'll be back on Thursday morning, 6 o'clock a.m., same time, same place. And hopefully you can tune in, and we'll just continue on through here and pick up sort of where we left off here today. But thanks everybody for being here, Gypsy Witch, and I had some guests here, and I appreciate everybody, you know, for listening and tuning in. I hope you have a good day. Like, if you can't cope and, you know, you're having a hard time and you're thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, you know, like, you make sure you get a hold of somebody, you know what I mean? If you have to, you phone a crisis line. Call the crisis line. Like, do not allow yourself to be destroyed by this. That's my big message, you know, is like, do not allow this to destroy you, because we certainly deserve so much better, and we have to be the ones to get it, you know. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. We have to make sure that we set ourselves up to have a good life. Nobody else is going to do it for us. And so, you know, just make sure you stick around and get some help, you know, because sometimes there's nobody to talk to, you know. Sometimes there's nobody around. People are busy, people are working, people sometimes just don't care, and sometimes they don't know how to care, right? So don't allow yourself to suffer on your own. Make sure you reach out, and if you have to, you phone an anonymous crisis line or join an anonymous support group online. I've done that. And, just get some help, right? Don't suffer on your own, right? Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you again. I'll be back on tomorrow night when child abuse prevention is up to us, and then again Thursday for one child abuse survivor to another. And so take good care of yourselves until then. Okay, bye-bye.